Hey everybody, it's Matt Pinfield. I'm in the studio in Santa Monica, California with a great band you need to know called Sons of Silver. They're about to release a new album called Runaway Emotions, and we're going to be talking about the record, the making of it, and what's going on in those songs. Let me introduce you guys to the band right now. Here's Mark, the drummer. This is Peter, lead vocalist and guitarist. We've got Brina, who plays keyboards and also sings. And we've got Adam on bass and Kevin on guitar. Everybody in the band writes, and we're going to talk to them right now about the new record. First of all, you got to pronounce your name for me again.
Argyropoulos.
Yes, which is a great Greek name.
That's Irish.
Yes, well, you are part Irish, right?
I am half Irish. But
Yeah.
I only grew up with the Greek family, so my spirit is more Greek, much more Greek. So.
That's amazing. So talk to me about, I know you were a solo artist as well.
Yeah.
But talk to me about your roots in music and how this band came together.
Well, it starts really with Adam and I. We were in a band called Last December some time ago, and it was an LA band, did really well, got chewed up and spit out by the label system, and landed on our feet and going in slightly different directions. Adam went more in the live area, joining Candlebox and the likes of that. I went more in the studio, and got to a point where I got tired of being in the studio, cutting tracks with artists who I wasn't thrilled about. So I wrote a few new songs, and in the meantime, Brina and I started working together as she was working as my engineer, and I went and played some shows, solo shows, and I was like, kind of bored. Dragged Brina into it, kicking and screaming a little bit, And so she came along, and we were still bored, so I called up Adam. I said, dude, can you help me put a band together? So he did, and he called up Dave Cruzen, the original drummer from Pearl Jam, and Dave brought in Kevin. And instantly, we had a bit of a chemistry. They were backing me up, but there was something there, and we immediately started playing shows at clubs all across the U.S. 50, 60 shows a year. We were spending so much time together then in the studio as well, recording, that we started writing together, and it became a different sound. It went away from Americana and everything. We renamed ourselves in the meantime Sons of Silver, borrowing from my name, which means Son of Silver, And that's how we ended up here. In the meantime, we tracked our upcoming album, Runaway Emotions, with Mark, and here we are in front of you.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Mark, your background too. You played with everybody from Goo Goo Dolls, Third Eye Blind, to Peter Murphy.
Yeah, that was the last person. But I wasn't in the Goo Goo Dolls or Third Eye Blind. I was in a band that toured a lot with them, a band called Splendor, which was my first record deal and band that I was in. And then the last tour I did before I joined this band I was with Peter Murphy for about 3 years.
Yeah, so you've probably done some goth shows. And
oh yeah,
Peter was great.
A lot of them all over the world.
Yeah, incredible.
Even in Greece, in fact, I remember. I just thought of it because
that's amazing.
We played in Greece. We spent a lot of time.
Rabid fans there.
Yeah, Peter's a great frontman, and he's. I remember seeing him in the back of a club.
Really?
In Trenton, New Jersey, City Gardens Wood Bauhaus. The bartender was Jon Stewart of The Daily Show.
Kidding?
When we were all in college.
Wow.
In Trenton, New Jersey, a place called City Gardens.
Yeah, that's something. Wow.
It's amazing, and but Peter's a really nice man. But this is great how you all came together. So there's that touring experience, of course, which is so important, which is amazing. Now, Adam, of course, you also play with Candlebox, which is great. You play with those guys live. But this has been a great thing and fun thing for you to do here, too, because of your relationship and friendship musically, right?
Yeah, well, we've worked together for years, and we've continued to enjoy creating things together, and I feel like over the years we've grown individually and as a collective. Even though you're proud of the things you've done, you always feel like your next thing's going to be even better, so you want to keep going. You want to see how far you can go in the creative sense. We've been very fortunate that we've built the team all around us. There's no ego in this. Like there's nobody vying for anything. It's literally we get in the room and we work together. So it's a fun, enjoyable experience. It's a very you don't feel like you're trying to angle at everything. So we're constantly working together over the years, and it's been good.
It's great with these 10 songs coming out together, which I think is really amazing. Kevin, tell me about. Has it been a really enjoyable experience with you guys working on these songs together?
Absolutely. Mainly for the reasons Adam just said. It really is just, this is what happens when we play together. Not to say we don't push ourselves and work on it, we do. But the core of it is really that,
One of the things that I find really important about the record, and what I'm attracted to about it, is that I think that it talks about things that are going on that people really lose sight of or not paying attention to. I think there's a real lack of protest music, and there's a lack of music that's making people aware of things that are going on around them. We're not going to get them to put down their devices completely, obviously. Right. You can't turn back the hands of time.
Excuse me on that note.
Yeah, the genie is out of the bottle. But on the other hand, you know, there is a need for people to really see what's going on around them. And what I found in the lyrics on this album are a lot of things that were really thought-provoking, and I want to talk to you about the songs on this record. Now, there's a song on this record called Running Out of Words. I love the whole expression, running out of words because we're running out of answers. Yeah. There's so many things going on right now in the world. It's one of the craziest times ever. Some people choose to just not look at it. I understand. We really do need to look at what's going on. So talk to me about the words to this track, Running Out of Words.
When that song first came about, it was about a year and a half ago. Frankly, Dave Cruzen had just left the band once and for all, and we were abruptly left without a drummer at a time when we were expected to go back into the studio, and we were like, where do we turn? You know, he built a band with us. We have a chemistry. We have our, you know, a friendship, you know, a real bond together. And the way we work is we build up the music together. Even someone brings in a different piece, we really work it together. So it requires a real intimacy from someone to open themselves up to be able to create like that it can only come when you're on the road and you know, spending a lot of time together. So we're like, what do we do? What do we do? We kind of felt like throwing in the towel, and that's in many ways where those lyrics came from. In a greater sense, also for me personally, it's you know, it's a fight being in a band. It's a fight getting heard in the world today for a number of reasons, and then to the fact that what we're going through in the world the last few years have been, you know, an absolute, well, clusterfuck, let's say, a whirlwind. We can probably edit that out. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to speak freely. It's who I am.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where they came from. I mean, I literally fell. I sat, you know, in the other room from the studio. I'm running out of words, running out of answers. And, you know, even the opening line, every day the week gets started, it felt like that. It's just going on and on. It's the same thing, and where am I going? And so I brought it to the band. I brought it to Brina first, and, you know, they took it from there.
Well, may I also say, I experienced in bouncing ideas that there was also this idea of, you know, because we were wondering, okay, is this the end of the band, you know? And then you think about, okay, well, what do you do next? You know, and thinking about work, and then you get into this headspace of getting up every day, and a lot of people go to work where they're not happy, and it's not as fulfilling, and, you know, what is that kind of life? And it's then also thinking of the world in a bigger sense, like what kind of world are we living and creating for the kids, and what kind of future is your future, is their future? So I think there was the small part of it, but there was a big part of it of, like, I wouldn't say the rat race, but sort of, you know, like, okay, well, what is the meaning of your life? You know, are you getting up every morning? What are you doing with your life? Is it fulfilling? You know, mm-hmm. So I experienced that as also part of the lyrics when we were working on it.
Well, actually, it was interesting with the lyrics when I was working on them. And one of the lines, the line in there, which I really like, is, you know, should have kept the children safe. Yeah. And it was originally be sure, or sure to keep the children safe, something along those lines. And she's like, oh, should have kept the children safe. That's really good. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I like that too, you know? Yeah. But it was reflecting on, frankly, over the previous few years during, you know, the lockdowns and COVID and stuff, how, frankly, we didn't do that great of a job of taking care of our kids. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's where that part came from.
Yeah. I always think of a lyric. There was a song title that always struck me that was a hit in England only by a man called the Manic Street Preachers, called "If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next." I couldn't believe that came out in the 90s. I was like, wow.
Wait, what's the name of the band?
They're called the Manic Street Preachers.
I remember
They have an album called This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours. So something worth checking out. Let's talk about the song on the record called Friends. Yeah. Because there's a lyric in this song that talks about how this too will pass. There's also the talk about, you know, someone in your life that's do or die. And friends, you know, like so many other things, pass and come and go. Let's talk about this song and what was the inspiration behind it.
This was a song that actually it started as a jam session here in the studio, right in this room right here.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a hard rocker.
Yeah.
Was, but the only thing that we salvaged from it that we all liked was the line friends, da da da, and a couple other lyrics from that, and it kind of just sat actually for like a year or so. And we tried a couple different ways of doing it. We tried a U2 way, and then sort of. Does that translate? Anyway, and then we did,
way.
and then we tried we did a bluegrass thing. It wasn't happening, and then we brought it to Mark, and we were doing, when you say like a Tom Petty-ish, thing. How would you describe it?
Yeah, that's a good way.
In that vein, Americana but heavier guitars, and we tracked it like that for the album, and we were listening to it, and we were just like, it didn't match the rest of the album. It didn't match the intensity of the vibe. It was still cool, and we have that. Maybe it'll come out someday, but it just wasn't quite there. And Kevin was like, what if we go different? What if we go piano, David Grayish? And what song was it you brought in?
What's it called? This Year's Romance, I think. This Year's Love, This Year's Romance. Beautiful song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, and so actually it was just the three of us, Brina and Kevin and I, that day, and we sat down and worked out a piano arrangement, and we went there, and we really wanted to keep the song because of the lyrical sentiment more than anything.
Yeah.
This has got a nice chorus, but the lyrics, are about coming together and rising through not only the times but your own differences.
Yeah.
And I thought it was not just appropriate for the time. Frankly, for me, it was kind of a little cathartic to write those lyrics, because I can be, I don't want to say combustible, but I have strong opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
and especially in the times that we're coming out of, I felt like, I don't want to say I was picking a fight with everyone, but I was really on the edge a lot for stuff that's kind of like nickel and dime when you look at it.
You're an artist, and there's a lot of emotions that you.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't need to be standing my ground on all the hosts of, let's say, even political stuff that we all get caught up in these days. That's a lot of it's just nonsense at the end of the day. So to me, I was like, a lot of it I was saying to myself, it's like, we need friends, and we got to push through our differences, because in many ways that's what we should celebrate. It's like, would you want to go into a garden that had all one color flower? Yeah. Working as a band, we each bring our own character and our own influences into what we play, and there's a lot of overlap, but we really don't step on each other's toes, and we often will disagree, let's say, but we manage to make it work and come up with our own stamp collectively. And I got to tell you, that's like the best feeling in the world. Short of having a kid, which is the best feeling, it's to do that together with people whom you really care about and enjoy being with. It's like a triumph, even if the rest of the world doesn't hear it. Well, we want the rest of the world to hear it, but it's a triumph. The other one's a big triumph.
Yeah.
Seriously. So that's where that song comes from.
Yeah, and I think it's a great place. I love the song "Just Getting Started" on this record. I think. Just a reference that it brings to, remember the songs that got you through the fight, songs that got you through everything. And there's, hearing a reference like that in the lyric is something that anybody who's a true lover of music and how songs get you through can really relate to that lyric. Talk to me about that.
That one was actually inspired by a riff that Kevin brought in, and in fact,
oh yeah, that's right.
You remember that? You should.
I really don't, man. It's fun.
No, it's the one song that Mark didn't play on, but it was played by Isaac Carpenter, written with Isaac, and this was in that period we were saying when our original drummer Dave Cruzen, right after he left the band, and John Fields suggested we speak with Isaac and Mark, and so, I mean, do you really want the story on it? You want to hear the story? You want the fucking story? Okay,
I do.
Here's
because
the story.
There's a lyric in there that I love too.
I cold call both Isaac and Mark.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, here's a situation. We got a band, and we needed someone to come in, but be more than just a session guy. really endeared themselves to us, at least for a brief period of time. You don't have to be in the band because, you know, no one really wants to join a band. You get sucked into it, and, you know, and it's like you know, getting knocking up your girl before you get married, you know.
That's funny.
So anyway, so needless to say, I managed to, you know, convince both of these guys to come to the studio, and we actually did back-to-back days, you know, and everyone knew it was all on the up and up, and so just by circumstance, Isaac came in first, and we worked on a few things together, and then we were like, wow, maybe we can find another drummer. And I was like, well, we don't need to call Mark then this guy. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I spoke to this guy for 45 minutes on the phone, and I freaking loved him. He's coming in. So he comes in the next day, and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So fast forward, we go and we say we're going to record a few songs with several songs with both of them. Screw it, overlap the same songs. Maybe we'll put them both out, both versions. So at the end of a tracking day with Isaac, we were like, we have like an hour left. What do we want to do at the time? We scheduled in the studio. We're like, how about we go jam? And Isaac's like, oh, dude, I don't want to go jam. I don't jam. You know, but not in a bad way. He thought we were going to go play like, you know, blues and
E for a
Yeah.
half hour.
Yeah.
So we're like, no. We're going to go out there, and someone's going to throw out a little idea, and we'll just start running with it and see where it goes. Maybe we can get a song. He's like, dude, that's not going to happen. I'm like, you never know. Come on, let's go try it. We were sort of feeling each other out. So we come in here, and Kevin immediately started playing this riff. It's a straightforward kind of bluesy rock and lift, but it's something that you do really well, that type of thing, so you sell it well. We all dug in instantly. 30 minutes later, the song came out, and that lyric came right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was actually standing about where you're sitting, and I'm looking over at Isaac, and he's playing the drums, and he's like, did you write this? You know, mouthing. And I'm like, no, man, often. He's like, yeah, you know, he's digging in.
Yeah,
and so that's, and frankly, I thought about it after. I was like, well, where'd that line come from? Because that was really all it came that day, lyrically. And I was like, it was a rebirth. It's just getting started. And now, backtrack when I had to go finish the lyrics, which there were a lot of, because I wanted it to live up to the music. I really pulled it from something that gets you through the night. And I was like, wow, that's where the song came from. It was a song that helped us get through what was a rotten period of time for us.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of a positive thing, but it's like a double, what do you call it, double entendre.
Yeah. Well, I was laughing because there's that great line about, you know, the bigger the deuce, the bigger the flush, or it was like you know, with the deuce, and I was dying because I love the double entendre because it showed. I mean, it's a serious lyric, but it's also the sense of humor is in there too, which is great.
Well, you know what goes.
Sometimes, like,
I mean, that keeps you going. Right? That's great.
He'll come in and he'll think like, I'll say no. I'm sorry. That's just, we can't say that or whatever. And he came in and I was like, yeah, let's do it.
I was so surprised.
It's so good.
I was so surprised. I was like, I wrote this, you know, because frankly, the way generally will work is that we'll build up the track together, the whole sound, and 9 times out of 10, there's either a key lyric right then and there, or comes right after, or maybe preceded it. It's floating around, you know. So anyway, and then I'll gather up other phrases and lyrics, and I'll just sing over the track, just scat ideas, and whatever comes out. It's very speaking in tongues-ish.
Yeah, and also getting that framing worked way that's going to flow.
Exactly.
Right?
And on that note, Brina has a lot to do with that. I'm a little stiff. She usually hears it and be like, yeah, you know, you can do a little bit of this to the rhythm. Anyway, so that's the way we do it. And frankly, the lyrics drive the band drive the lyrics.
Oh, that's okay.
That means I got to move my car.
Oh, okay, we understand.
You know what? Shit, just leave it.
Yeah, we'll buy you a new one. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Seriously, just leave it. So yeah, we're all bouncing ideas off each other. So it may be like, I'm the principal lyric writer, but it's a sentiment that comes from all of us because we're just talking about these things all the time, and you know, the phrases like the bigger the deuce, the bigger the flush. That's, I don't remember if it's yours or yours. That's one. It's one of these two guys who says, "Oh, it was the biggest deuce ever." I think it's you. Yeah,
and I
sounds
love
like
that
a Kevin
because the
thing.
double entendre is so
No
great.
idea.
But I think it's so cool that as a group, it's kind of a thing you guys do as a gang, there's a friendship, there's a working relationship that's creative, where, you know, just that's what happens from people that actually hang out and spend time together.
Right.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
gotta
That
tell you,
makes all the difference, right?
I can't
mean,
tell you how many times in the last few years when we're doing interviews and people, one of the first thing out of someone's mouth, so you guys actually worked in the same room together? And I'm sitting there like, well, it is a rock and roll band. Aren't you supposed to get sweaty together to some degree?
Yeah.
And they're like, no one does that anymore. Just piece it out. And I'm like, come on. I can't imagine doing it any other way. If anything, just the joy of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did it out of necessity during the pandemic.
For sure.
When they couldn't be together. But I think, honestly, the best records have always been done when people are in a room together.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
The records that, you can feel you can feel the mesh, the groove of the musicians. There's like a
Sweat in the
point.
room.
There's sweat. There's a groove, and there's a place. That they rise to when you're all together. I mean, I think there's nothing that compares to that.
No.
Yeah.
And that's not to say some good records haven't been made that way, but let's be honest. It was when the Stones decided to start making more of their records in the same room together, things got a little better again. Right. And I think that's a really important thing because that's really what they did. I mean, I did the interview with all the Stones for Bigger Bang, the album that came out before in 2005. Yeah. And they had all worked in the room together for the first time since before Tattoo You, the last great album that they really put out. But that album, the reason why they continued to work not together was, besides personal issues of getting along, that record was put together from old tracks, but somehow that worked.
Right.
But when Charlie got sick the first time, he got a throat cancer, and he got better, they were like, let's do this record in the same place. And that's how they did Bigger Bang. And that's how they ended up doing most of this record as well. But I still believe there's something about getting in that room together, man.
I think so.
I mean, if it works for you guys, it works for the Foo Fighters, it works for a lot of bands. It's better to be sitting there across from each other, man. I think it's the greatest. For me in rock and roll, it's the way it should be done.
Well, and the biggest thing to me is it's a reactive thing, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you have people in the room and you respect and trust what everyone brings to the table, and then we're all throwing out the ideas. The ideas aren't personal. If you throw something out and the rest of the group lights up on it, you have something. If it kind of falls there, then next idea, and you don't take it personally. You just keep moving.
Exactly.
But it's that reaction thing. It's like I don't think any of us plays the same when we're on our own. I've always found when I'm making a record, I like to be in the room with the drummer no matter what. Because we play things together, and the whole group if you can, but especially as a bass player with the drummer.
That rhythm section, right? Locking that groove.
5 times harder to go back into the control room after it's all done and recut that performance and try and get yourself back to it. First off, it's never going to be what it was in that room. So as long as what's going on in that room is really good, keep it. At all costs if you can, because there's things that happen. You're not gonna. You're watching somebody. You're hearing something, or maybe somebody plays something different once, and it inspires you. And you don't get that when you work by yourself.
No.
Not in that way.
You don't, and I think that's great. And it's really evident with the way this record sounds, because it sounds like you got that room vibe that you're together. Throughout this record, it's got that underlying atmosphere in the production, which we'll talk about in a little bit too.
Well,
And
we each all have, like, if one person isn't there, it does change the sound. Like, there was times the last 6 months where we were working on the production and the guitars where I had to leave early to put the kid to sleep, and it was just Kevin and Peter, and it had a different vibe a lot sometimes. When we came back together, it's like we each have an influence.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, this band is 100% all of us together.
Yeah. A real sum of its parts, which is great. Let's talk about the song Ghosts, metaphorically speaking, about, just getting to that point sometimes where you're sentimentally broken, the things you do, but how do you get through that and the people that have passed through your lives? Talk to me about that song.
That song started, it was being kicked around for several months. It started as a jam, I don't know how we ended up coming up with a groove, came up with a jam, and actually a little bit of a piece of it preceded Mark being in the band. And it was among our list of ideas. And we brought it to Mark. I had the phrase ghosts and not much else. Ghosts are in my head, a few other lines maybe in the chorus. But we brought it to Mark. and we, really had to fight to get it together musically. But lyrically, it was about sort of suffering, in a sense, and internal conflict. And in one sense, it was a personal suffering through not just through life, not any particular event. But then also externally, in my mind, a picture was being painted is that, Breen and I live, here in LA and actually in Venice. And there are a lot of homeless people. I mean, it's out of control. And I don't mean that to slight the people who are on the streets. I mean it just as a matter of fact statement about our community. And one day it occurred to me a lot of them were like ghosts, just sort of passing around from block to block, through our lives, in and out. And I kind of worked the lyrics around that in a bigger sense, but internally, the first line says it all. It's that no one's coming to save me, no one's calling to talk. And that goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about as far as, the band in a, very precarious position. Are we going to come up with a new drummer? Are we going to keep the team together? Are we going to keep our chemistry? That this man right here, so thankfully, not only kept together, but elevated. And significantly. But the no one coming to save me, no one calling to talk. I don't like really quoting myself, but since we're talking about that, I guess I have to. But that's where it's coming from. No one was going to come save us. We need to get to this ourselves on our own. Period. And also personally through some other stuff I was going through.
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, it really comes together again with everybody's contributions to these songs. I mean, you can really hear it, and that's what I love. Giving It Back is another track I want to talk about, and I love that whole thing about not letting the tyrants take control. Again, really kind of the overview of how crazy things get and what's happening out there, and staying awake and paying attention. So talk to me about that.
Well, one of the things that always happens with us in the studio is that we talk a lot. We're good friends, so we'll come in here and we'll talk about sports, our kids. We all have kids. We talk about politics. And, the last few years, politics have been a very a real hot topic, and we're actually always really really good together. Even when we disagree, even though I generally am right. At the end, everyone.
But you at least open each other's point of views. Always.
I like.
More people need
would
to
you
be.
want? I don't want to be in a room with a bunch of people seriously who would they're lock and step, and we all agree. That'd be kind of boring, if anything. I'm half Greek,
Yeah.
So anyway, but given it, one of the things that really, frankly, bothered me during the COVID era, were people wanting to stomp out other people's opinions. Even if I disagreed with it, I want to hear it. I mean, at the very least, then I know if I think you're, So I think that's is a slippery path. So that's really where that came from, and an awareness. It's like, is this really what we want to leave our kids?
No.
We want to leave them a world like this where, one voice is running the show. Really?
No, we want people to be able to have critical thinking and to actually, look at other people's opinions and at least hear them through.
Yeah.
Even if they don't necessarily agree, and accept the fact that other people have other opinions.
It's a good thing, and that's what reshapes it. And frankly, and that's how we all speak amongst each other. So it just once again came out in the lyrics,
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, and it's a strong song for that reason. All right. Also, in the song "Hold Tight," which rocks, there's a lyric about waking the dead is an easier bet than the man with no conviction.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cool lyric because, you want more people to, see what's going on in the world, take some action, whether it's through positivity, through music, whatever that happens to be. But, I'm sure it's just one of those things when people, are so passive or lethargic or don't care about what's going on around them. I found that was really cool, the lyric to Hold Tight. So talk to me about that song.
That was that lyric in particular. It's just it's just what I felt, what I feel like I've seen, and what we've talked about. There's just this general apathy, what we'll all fall into at times, with not only with the world and with our communities, but also with ourselves. But frankly, I was singing about the man, so to speak. It's like I feel that many of our hard fought for rights as individuals, and I don't mean hard fought for in the last few years, few decades. I mean over hundreds of years that we've been blessed with in recent decades, centuries, that we're letting them slip away, and through apathy, through just general comfort, and I don't want to rock the boat because then it'll mess up my chance to go home and watch my TV show and blah blah blah. So frankly, I talk to myself too because I'm not the most active person. Anyway,
right.
But the song itself started with a riff that I roughly had, and this was before we had Mark in the band, and we were kind of desperate, in a sense internally, and we had a few sessions where it was the four of us, Brina, Kev, and Adam, who came in with the drum machine, and I played these guys the idea, and we just went from there and started really running with the song. And actually, Adam really constructed this song musically tremendously from the chorus and the likes of that, and then that set me off running with it. We brought it to Mark, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that was the first track that we actually recorded it in our first.
That's right.
Our first session together at the end of the day.
That was a jam the first time we ever played.
Yeah, and I remember because, Mark was coming in as having for the last several years before playing as more of a session guy. So you're a little more restricted when you're a session guy. You're working.
Play a little safer.
Yeah, I'm speaking for you, so.
No, you're right. You're right.
And so we were like, just be yourself now. Let it all hang out. We're not gonna hold anything against you. You make a flub, you play something strange, whatever. We do it all the time. It's like that's how we make our living.
Yeah.
So anyway, finally he was playing great, but we wanted to see where the real personality was. And then as we got through the day, got 2/3 of the way through the day, he really started loosening up. And that's where that came from, especially like that crescendo at the end.
Right.
Actually,
it's all coming back to me.
he just really started pushing it, and we got that. We're like, let's go back and try this whole song again. And that's where the spirit came from, and that really helped me to finish off the lyrics, to raise them up to meet that intensity that the band collectively has.
Well, the whole thing at the end just kind of happened. Like, we didn't talk about that. There was no, like, we're going to come back in and do this whole build. We just did.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of when you're writing, creating as a band, right? Mm-hmm. Is it just go in that direction and take the song wherever it goes and go, we kind of like that. That sounds really good. Let's do this.
It speaks to the point that you were making earlier about playing together. Like, that wouldn't have happened if
no way.
We weren't.
Not at all.
Yeah, like, that's just a prime example of there's many examples you can come up with, but that's a very good one where there's an entire section of a song that would not have happened if we were just remotely recording, because that happened just by accident.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be thinking about that. You wouldn't be looking at each other in the eye, just seeing each other.
Exactly.
And when that feeling comes, which is so great. In Nobody Minds, this song, there's a line that says, you can tell by the lips that it's all in the script. And when I heard that, I thought of like something even literal, like just like when somebody's reading a script to you over the phone and you're trying to get help for something. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's something as simple as that we all as humans end up going through, or we're trying to get help.
My house is burning down.
Or somebody like hacked my my bank account, or you charge me for something, and you're like, really? It's just unbelievable. It's just one symptom of many things that we have to deal with as human beings, some inconveniences. But Nobody Minds also seems to be talking about, again, where people are just, can be a little bit lethargic and are letting things go. What is that lyric also in that theme?
Yep, same time frame. Frankly, a lot of these songs were constructed within the same 10 days, 2 weeks. Yeah. So, the emotions overlap a lot. And we were, originally thinking, frankly, of doing just an EP. Yeah. But we were coming up with a bunch of ideas, and we're like, let's just do an album.
Yeah.
And so again, there's overlap, but they each have their own little place, kind of like kids. Kids kind of act and behave the same, but then they're little different pieces of your collective.
Yeah. And your favorite conceptual albums and records that you've loved do have overlapping themes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Albums that where things will come back in a record.
Yeah, it's a moment,
which is really important. It's one of those things that brings you back to that record. It's just brings it all back together. There's references, whether it's and Ziggy Stardust or Quadrophenia or a million other records that
Dark
are,
Side.
you know, what's that?
Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon,
Yeah.
you know, all those,
yeah, well,
so many classic records
masterpieces.
that I love,
Yeah.
that we all love, that, you know, bring references back around throughout the record. So I think that, you know, that's one of the things that's great about that.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it adds the conceptualized part of it. So one last one we need to talk about. I mean, there's 10, but we got to talk about, you know, Tell Me This, which is the new single.
Yeah.
And that line about, you know.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, can we talk about the
No.
No. But I love the song, and it's.
Thank you.
I'm a big Smiths fan, but I love the line about Smith's lyrics and a bomb strapped to your chest. So tell me about that. Is that because you're a fan of the Smiths? Is it more of an observation of somebody, a character, somebody that you knew?
A lot of stuff comes out, frankly, that I have no idea where it comes from. You know? During the making of this album, I was actually listening to Depeche Mode, like nonstop. And somehow I was listening to a playlist, whatever, radio on Spotify, and it got me into some Smith songs. So it got stuck in my head, you know, their lyrics, and there's the darkness, but the comedy.
And sense of humor,
yeah,
absolutely.
You know, in a really good way. You know,
Yeah.
it's daring, it's unique, it's fresh, it's very British too.
Yeah.
You know, frankly, what happened was with this song is we were kicking around the idea for a few months, and I had that riff, the jinga jigga jigga jinga jigga jigga thing.
Yeah.
And the song was called Now Hear This. I was in my political, you know, moment. It just wasn't quite happening. It was like we got the riff, everyone was really digging that, and so we shelved it. Mark joins the band. You know, after those first sessions, we really start getting to know each other. We play some shows together, and I find out, you know, I can see it anyway that he loves punk rock. You know, and that's like, I write more like a folk singer, frankly.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I would be like in the Clash or something. Like
Yeah.
that. So I brought the idea back to the band. I said, can we revisit this? And immediately it just worked. We tightened up a lackluster verse, made it exciting. I remember, Adam, you really pushed some of those chromatic runs in there. And in the meantime, I had changed the lyric to Tell Me This. Still thinking, I was clinging to the idea of making it a political statement song. But we really came together, and Mark really pushed it over the top energy-wise. So came down to finish the lyrics, because really all I had was Tell Me This, Tell Me This. And I'm still thinking that I'm going to make this a political song, like I was saying. So lyrics like strap a love bomb to my chest, and
There were a lot of different
but there were
ideas,
political things. It was strap a flag pin to my chest. Because you know, frankly, it's not a pro-American, you know, anti-American thing. But when I saw these politicians putting, you know, flag pins on their chest, it's like the new thing for the last 10 or 20 years. You got to have this flag pin on your chest, and it rubs me wrong. And I kept trying to sing about that, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find a way to make the story work. It just wasn't coming out. And what kept coming out with this sort of love song, you know, crazy bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
Crazy relationship.
Yeah. And we meet again. Oh, you're still crazy. Glad I left that one.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you, honey.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No, but it's cool how you can take that and you can change that into.
How does it
Do you recognize my ass on your lips? Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you recognize
yeah.
my ass on your lips?
We oftentimes will go through when he has some time to sit with lyrics, and he'll show me like, okay, this is A, B, C, these ideas, and we kind of go together. And when I read the Smiths line, I was like, oh yeah, you got to keep that. That's great.
I thought it would be
and
too
then-
obscure.
No, I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Both of us were like, yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
And it actually didn't make the cut. I kept on saying, you know, Peter, I think you got to put that in. And then Rob said, you got to put that in.
Yeah, he was like, it's rock and roll.
Yeah, it's rock and roll.
our
And when we
manager.
got an okay from the other people not in the band, we're like, okay.
It was just one of those things, you just throw out lines to try to create an emotion, a feeling, and frankly it made it more fun for me to sing. And then when these guys all gave it the thumbs up, it sort of liberated me, because, you know, it's a little crass,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, don't feel that, you know, look, the Smiths and Depeche Mode you mentioned is, you know, they're still two of the most streamed artists in the U.S. and the U.K.
I'm
and
sure.
a lot of the world. They're two that always show up from England that are still have such an unbelievable hold and find new fans. So it's cool that you mentioned it in the.
You know what? I got to tell you, that's actually, it turns out, one of my most proud moments, lyrically that is, because it's unusual. It references an influential artist, one that I always love, and people got it because I thought it was going to be this obscure thing, especially kids. They'll know U2, but the Smiths. It's not that they're not an equally great band for that period, but they didn't have the longevity. So the name doesn't stick around in people's eyes and ears as long.
Right, they weren't together for very long.
Well, it was only a few years, if I was right. Yeah. So when people really got it, I was like, it was actually refreshing and rewarding to me because I was like, oh, okay, so this music's they're still thriving.
Yeah, and it also shows you there's hope for new young people coming up and finding old bands and meaningful bands all the time, which I love.
Yeah, because it's new to
so
them.
much great music. And it's not when people discover it, it's that they discover it. That's the most important thing. That's what I believe. And speaking of great people and working with you too, Tim Palmer produced this track. Tell me about your relationship with Tim and working with Tim on this record.
You know, we had tracked most of the album and we were struggling to find the right person to mix it.
Because you produce most of it.
We produce the way we work.
Always do.
Yeah, we produce it. We're completely self-contained.
Yes.
It is only the five of us in the room.
Yes.
Rena's even though she plays keys in the band, but she's the engineer, and that's it. She's in the tracking room by herself. The rest of us work out stuff here. She chimes in. We go into the control room, listen to it, and then most of the overdubs are done by Brina and myself and Kevin.
Yeah.
And Mark and Adam will chime in. Yes, no. Here's a different idea, but. You know, when it comes to mixing, we need a second set of ears who's in the room with us, but not in the room.
Well, also, we used to do, I would do it, and Kevin came in, and he would be my second set of ears. Basically, and we would do it together. He would usually step out and kind of come in every once in a while and say, yeah, you guys are doing great, or, and have input. But there's no way we could have done it this time with
Tim's
the kid.
great
we have a 3-year-old, and it was already challenging there. So
having a fresh set of ears with someone that you respect.
Oh, it was
so
helpful.
great work
and it's
that Tim
still
has done.
even at that you're like, oh, how's this gonna
It
go?
was scary.
So frankly, we got introduced to Tim, and I hit him up by email and said, hey, do you have time to mix some? He's like, I'm really busy right now. So I said, please check it out, and he's like, I checked out some of the other stuff, I really dig it, so sure, send it to me. So I sent him the track. He hits me up right away, and we had sent him the song Running Out of Words, and he instantly replied, said, I would love to mix this song. I'll find the time, I'll make the time. He goes, but I'm very slow. And I said, well, what's slow? He said, it takes me a week to mix the song often. And I'm like, as long as it's good, you take all the time you need. And the interesting thing is, Tim had been on my personal short list of producers to work with for a number of years, but it was kind of like reaching into the stratosphere, for me. And so when we were introduced, much less he agreed to mix a track, I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. And we got the mix, and I remember Brina and I were in the studio, and you sit down in front of the speakers to listen, and you hold your breath, and it starts, and instantly, Brina looks at me, and she's sitting in the engineer's chair directly in front of the speakers, and she's got tears in her eyes. I have it on video.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
And it's actually, honestly, it's making me well up, I swear to God, to say it, even this moment, because you're pouring your heart and soul into this, into these recordings, in every single way, and not just in the moment of the recordings, but even what precedes them to get the whole project together. And to hear someone not only do a good job of it, but lift it to a level, frankly, that you didn't even think existed, is pretty remarkable.
He just got it. He understood how it needed to feel.
And he made a really wonderful comment to me, which was, he played it for his wife and made her cry, and it was like he says, one of the best songs I've missed in the last 10 plus years.
Wow.
And that meant a lot, and coming from someone of his pedigree, of his history. Nonetheless, we were on the phone, and I said, what do you think about mixing the whole album? And he said he would. It would just take a few months because, he had other projects he had committed to. He was going on a long-needed vacation. But we had a wonderful time mixing with him, and he mixed the rest of the album, and he brought a lot to the table. It wasn't just about moving faders and twisting knobs and adjusting EQs. He played some guitar. He played some additional keyboard parts on it, and he even sang on it.
That's
some
great.
backgrounds. You know, and it's a funny thing because one of the, on Tell Me, I think it's Tell Me This. Yeah, he's singing some background vocals in the verses, and and I was trading messages with him, and I was saying, hey, you know, we really love the guitar pieces you added, just some sort of like breaks in the top of the chorus, and the way you treated Brina's background vocal, because it really made that chorus really shine. And he goes, yeah, it's great. He goes, but how about my background vocals?
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't really hear him. He said, listen, they're real subtle in the verse. So I listened, and I was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, that's really cool. I said, who do you think you are, Mutt Lang?
Yeah.
You know, because actually
Yeah.
Kevin and I were just watching the Hysteria.
And we know that Mutt Lang sang backing vocals on so many things.
Yeah, exactly.
That he worked on.
So
From AC/DC Records to Boomtown Rats to Bryan Adams, of course.
exactly.
Tim Palmer's great, though, you know, and it's amazing because having worked with U2 and so many other bands you respect and love. But the fact that he took that kind of personal interest, to me, that's when a producer is showing that they really care, and it's not just pushing buttons for a paycheck.
First time I heard the mix, I was just like, he took what we did and he accentuated everything in the right way and brought it out and gave it just the right edge. And I kind of like the mixers that are a little woolly, and he's got a little bit of that in that. And he provided that, which we needed.
Yeah.
Some bands might not need that. We needed that.
Yeah.
So it was perfect.
It worked out great.
Yeah.
But it's cool because I like Tim a lot. He's good people.
Do you know him?
Oh, yeah, we know each other. We're friends through, you know,
I can't wait
through
to
Facebook and stuff.
finally talk to him.
You know, I did A&R. I never got to A&R work on a actual production record with them, but I worked with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, when you're talking about how, you know, you don't know, like, you're waiting to hear it because you're like, people you respect. I've had to make those phone calls to mixers and producers that I really love and respect and go, and those vocals ain't loud enough.
Yeah.
You didn't bring those vocals up. Or, hey man, I don't know, there's something going on with that mix. You know, so, I mean, but that's what I was hired for, to have an opinion.
Sure. Right.
Not just be a guy. I love what the artists, what Cody and Cambria said to me, go, man, you know, it's good to have an A&R guy who doesn't just take people out to dinners, but actually has an opinion and has some great ideas for the studio.
Yeah.
Which is important because, you know,
Really
I took it
is.
very seriously because I love music is so important to me.
Yeah.
But I also don't step on and push my agenda over an artist's agenda. It's very important how you handle that balance. That's how I always felt it was, because it's the artist's music. You know what I mean? And you can only really, you know, you make suggestions.
Well, you know,
You know.
it's interesting on that note with Tim. When we first spoke, one of the things he asked me, what do you want me to do? Just mix? Because, or if I hear something, can I, you know, throw it in there if it needs a tambourine or shaker or whatever, extra guitar, keyboard. And I said, look, this is the way we work as a band. You do whatever you want to do, and you know, if it's not working, we'll just all kind of sense it and move past it and adjust. I said, so I want you to be you. You do what you want to do, and if we don't like it, you got to just have the thick enough skin where we tell you, hey, Tim, we don't like that, or you did 5 things, we like 3 of them, 2 of them have to go. I said, if you can handle that, I said, then we're all good. And he said, absolutely. And I would say 90% of what he added as far as additional instruments we kept. Like, for instance, for instance, on the song Nobody Minds, Mark has that, you know, big tom beat going on there, but the percussion that's on there, that's all Tim, you know. And I must say, I remember, because when we first heard, we were listening to it, we're like, oh, I don't know, the percussion's kind of overshadowing. Is it getting in the way of the drums? Is it overshadowing them? And then we listened without percussion, and we're like, nope, percussion's staying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it really is.
And actually, what it really does is it liberates his part, his bombastic tom part that's going on there.
Or running, at the top of running, he threw in that shaker, and it was never in there. When I heard it the first time, I thought, well, that's interesting. And, you know, you keep an open mind, and I listened to it, and I thought, this is great. This is a really good idea.
Yeah, and it really, you know, because again, we're self-produced.
Yeah.
So it's like working on a mosaic, but you get closer and closer every day, and eventually your nose is pressed up against the little pieces of glass there, and you need someone who can pull your, you know, head away, or at least see from a distance a little bit better than you, and obviously he really fit for us.
Yeah.
He made really musical choices. Nothing he did to me felt like I'm sticking myself in here. You know,
Yeah.
it was everything he did was like, that's a really musical, helpful thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was just
You know?
the entire experience. It was such an organic thing to come together, but it was the perfect storm and match.
You know what? That's a really good way of putting it.
You know?
That really sums it up. It was very serendipitous in a way.
Yeah.
It was, very fortunate, but just it was meant to be.
Guys, I want to say thank you so much for giving us
Thank you.
time today.
Thank you.
Spend with you here in the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm
you
really
so much.
excited about the new record, which will be out soon. Do you have an idea of when you guys will release the album?
Probably late spring, early summer.
Okay, sounds great. Well, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for hanging out with me here, guys.
Thank you so much.
I'm Matt Pinfield here with Sons of Silver, hanging out today. Peter, Brina, Mark, Adam, and Kevin. What a great hang with you guys here in the studio. Much love and good luck to you.
Yeah, same
Thank
thing.
you.
It's been a great hang. It flew by for me. Don't forget, check out the new video and single, Tell Me This. With Sons of Silver, I'm Matt Pinfield, coming to you from the studios in Santa Monica.